All right, totally on me and traffic here in the Atlanta area. Sorry that we're running a couple of minutes behind. And when you're, and I guess this is our opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Right there's your QR code. And I know, Bam, that you really want us to try to get the QR code and post it down here and kind of let everybody know what's going on. But kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can follow them on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Once again, reminder, use the code SoccerDownHere15, get 15% off your coffee. And then from that, they take 10% of the proceeds and roll them over into youth initiatives. So very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee at kickoffcoffeeco.com. When you have one of those, when we have our modern phones and you have the map function and it tells you, okay, to get from point A to point B, that you can go here, and here, and everything's fine. So I do that because, obviously trying to get from point A to point B, a lot of the time, you're trying to sit there and go, okay, how do I do this as quickly as humanly possible? And I will admit that when I'm trying to read the delays, sometimes I can't tell if it's adding the time that's inside the delay or if the delay is built inside the time code. So, it took, let's see, from downtown Atlanta to go 7 miles. I had to go 12, and it took me an hour and 5 minutes. So that's your afternoon. And of course, I went through, university traffic and hospital traffic and high school traffic. So that was all the fun part. But all right. So now that I heard the noise, which means one thing. It means that I get to do this now. There he is. And it is time. There he is, Niko Moreno, El Rolo NW, our buddy from Pulso Sports and out west. And so, Niko, I was explaining in our opening kickoff, once again brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, when you have the phone that gives you like the map instructions, trying to get from point A to point B and figure out, okay, how do I do this as quickly as possible? And then, and it gives you like the strip of red, which is the delay.
Oh my God.
I don't know how to read the delay that says plus 17 minutes. Does that mean 17 minutes to what already is telling me, or is the delay already encrypted into the ETA from getting from point A to point B? I still have problems reading maps on these newfangled phones.
I think it's supposed to mean that it's already in there, but half of the time you end up adding 2 to 3 to whatever they've already told you that you already delayed 17, but you might as well just add another 5 to that. That's what I've come to found out with these things.
So that was where I am. And what we have done, with everything here at SDH, growing up here in the Southeast, Superstation WTBS used to have what they called Turner Time. And that was why everything started at blank 05 or blank 35. And so that's why we start the show in the morning at 9:05. That's why we start the show, here at 5:05 and any other shows on the board as an homage to our growing up and having things at 05, because then other folks would be in commercial breaks when you weren't, and those kinds of things. But welcome. And I'm glad that you are the one that's not in the car this week.
Me too. I'm glad that I was going to just be home waiting for my favorite time of the day, which is talking to my guy and all of the people from soccer down here. So just excited to be on. I was actually thinking that as I was brewing my coffee, because I'm on cup number 4.
4? Oh, wow.
That's right. Of the day. It's been a big one. It's been a big one.
Okay.
So I got some Niko's brewing thoughts of midweek.
We got Niko's Nuggets of the midweek.
That's right. That's right. Because I was thinking about it, and I was just interested on. We had 9 games this midweek.
Mm-hmm.
7 of the home teams won 7 of those 9 games,
Right.
and only 1 lost at home, which was Orlando City to your flying high Atlanta United. So I thought that was interesting. Another cool aspect of this weekend, from the exact same producer of Hat Trick Films as the flying center back Purata, it was interesting to see Austin bring in a guy from the bench and completely take over with a hat trick. The Gide, I knew I was going to have a hard time with his last name, but
Oh, you
I
got it.
thought that was crazy that
Yeah.
he came on and just found every opportunity on goal, put it away.
If you had Musa Gite in your fantasy team, then you win. That's basically all I'm going to say is absolutely. I did not have Musa Gite in my fantasy team. I know none of us did, and if you did, I think you're fibbing. But the other element in the midweek stuff, if we go back and look at the 9, I know that obviously we'll look back at LAFC and Minnesota United. We'll look at that one, and we'll look at Vela and Bale, which really seem to be the same charge on the magnet. Literally, it's like, remember when we were in physics class or in science class, and you sit there and you take the positives and the negatives and you try to push them toward each other, and the magnets would repel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we've got with Bale and Vela. I think you've got 2 positives and they're turning into 2 negatives, and the magnet is going like this, and they're not linking up the way that they normally should.
That's part of it. It's a team that, like we said, man, we predicted the fact that having a team that already has an identity, a way to play, and players that have come together to get a team as high as they were at one point, and you start making changes, things don't work. But I think Gareth Bale thought that, as Higuain did at one point, he was going to come here, he was going to be loved by all, be the GOD of MLS, and that's just not the case. I will say this. Mm-hmm. It is something that was clear. Like, I never understood why. Look, I love my guys at extra time, but all those guys almost do a parade when they were talking about Gareth Bale coming here. Twilben was talking about how Cellini and Bale put LAFC as the team that everybody should follow or was going to follow. They were going to be the dream team. My guy, Michele from Tudene, talking about how this was the best team he had ever seen. That is not how you build squads. Gareth Bale was already a non-factor. He was a sub at best. Great for his national team, sure, but he did not have the ethic, the moment to come to MLS and just take over. So things that just got put in place. That's it. You shouldn't be thinking that anyone who comes in with a somewhat name is going to come here and do great things. So that's not the case. And don't even get me started on Cellini, because he's been worse.
Well, I mean, when you bring in a defender who thinks he's Karch Karai, and I just, that to me, when you look at a guy like Chiellini, who's in his mid-30s, and I think you could say the same thing to a certain extent about Criscito and Toronto FC. Yep. Where you bring in Bernardeschi, you bring in Insigne, and you see what Insigne has meant to Toronto FC and what he means when he's not in the lineup for Toronto FC. Criscito in his mid-30s, I think that it's a stabilizer, but it's not one of those things that in Toronto's case can get you out of lane 8 and get you into the playoffs on the sprint all the way to the finish. Chiellini has shown that maybe he's good for 70 minutes. And then you've got to sub him. But then I think that it's a question for Steve Cherundolo now with LAFC. How do you most effectively use all of those expensive toys that John Thorrington gave you? It's like, hey, here's a present. Open the present. And you sit there and you go, oh, great, it's a sweater. It's not what you were looking for. But the thing is that you can't put the sweater in the bottom drawer of the chest of drawers. You've got to wear the sweater in front of the aunt or the uncle or the grandma that knitted you the sweater. It's just you've got to sit there and figure out what to do with it. And it's going to be this last handful of matches plus the postseason. I think it's going to be a challenge for LAFC. And you and I have been saying this from the absolute beginning when they added all these toys. It is not what you think it's going to be.
I think Chile is fine for 45, if that. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable with the man being my starter. Maybe you bring him in to close down a game, and that's with him being a defensive liability because he looked terrible positioning-wise, closing down on balls. I mean, physically, he just can't get to certain places. Physically, he can't man-mark certain people. It's just not there, man. I don't care. Praised his career, fantastic. He deserves a round of applause for what he has done for Italy and in his soccer career. But let's leave it at that, guys. Let's no longer bring guys of high caliber, big names at 38 to MLS. Let's just let that be a lesson to all. And Toronto's different, man. Maybe they did need a center back because they did. They didn't have much going on. Everything that happened with Salcedo, was awful. So you could say, hey, you know what? They needed a guy. Let's bring him in. But LAFC didn't need that. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say because I'm going to reiterate myself with things that we have already talked about. But let's talk about their game. Minnesota United was better than them. Throughout the 90 minutes. They knew what to do with the ball better. Bebelo Reynoso just changes everything about it. He had a great goal. But LAFC, man, Baunga looked anemic, looked forced into a position. There is no commitment as a group. As a cohesive unit, LAFC doesn't show you a team that's ready for the playoffs. Carlos Vela, great individually. Chicho Arango, always great individually. He's the man. He is your best attacking player, your most effective attacking player. Sifu being in the bench, I didn't love. But all in all is what you said. I have all these things to use. I have almost pressure to put all these guys in, and nothing's working. So Minnesota was just better. They have issues of their own. I don't think they're a lock for playoffs even, but at least there is a better collective play than there is from LAFC. So that tells you all you should know about both teams.
Minnesota's got 3 matches to go. They're at 45 points. They have the most wins of that group that are 46, 45, 43 right now. That might be the one thing that saves them, considering that 43 is 7th place, and LAG is the team that I wanted to talk about next. 40 points. They've drawn 3 of their last 4. They drew their last 3 heading into the match last night in Vancouver for MLS After Dark. And it was a goalless first half. Wasn't the most exciting thing on the planet. Why do I say that? Because I watched it, because I wanted to see how LAG was going to respond on the road. And then you got to see a Galaxy team that was beaten in transition. Ryan Gauld was back in the lineup for Vancouver. And 3 on the board for Vancouver before the night was up. How worried are you now about LAG, considering, we can make all the jokes about Panenkas and PKs and things like that. But right now, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot. They've got a match in hand. How worried are you about LA Galaxy? And then how worried are you about Greg Vanney at the same time if they don't make the playoffs with this investment, with the Chicharito, with Ricky Puig, all of this stuff that they brought to the table?
Well, I'm not really worried because, I'm rooting for Seattle. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't a bad thing that they lost. But speaking from an analyst point, yes, Greg Vanney, he's going to be there. If LA Galaxy have shown us something is that they do their best to keep processes together. He needs a few years to get this team back to where they should be.
Are they going to give it to any coach these days, especially since you got to keep up with the Joneses across town?
No, I think so. And that's why you brought him in. He has enough of a name and enough of respect across the league to make you believe that regardless of results, there is a future. Right. And Ricky's part of that, right? We just brought you this incredibly talented Spaniard that, came from Barcelona. He could be your young star, and it's going to be this amazing thing next year. I didn't have him in the playoffs. I didn't have him at the beginning of the year. I didn't have him midseason. I don't have him now going to the playoffs. But they played themselves out of the playoffs, starting with Panenka, starting with issues of not understanding that every goal counts. And as a coach, sometimes you cannot allow players to just make that decision. Hey, you guys figure it out. Nope. Who's my best kicker? Season's on the line. I'm going to do that. Lack of cohesiveness, that's obvious. This team against Vancouver tried to be the protagonist. They really did. That first half, they're trying to make runs. They're trying to get forward. Ricky's trying to take shots mid-range. They really wanted to do it, but they couldn't execute it because they just don't have that cohesiveness, and you could see it. And Javier Hernandez was getting denied service, and he wasn't finding those prime assist zones as a unit, and then himself in the box in that final third to get himself in a good position. So it was just a lot of effort, a lot of desire. I'm going to get a lot of numbers forward, and there is where Vancouver took advantage of it. Couple of set pieces and an inability from LA Galaxy to clear the ball. And then in transition, because you have so many numbers forward, you're trying to be the protagonist. You're trying to, eventually get the equalizer, and everything fell apart. Greg Vanney, if I had to criticize something, was his inability to affect the game from the bench and do something to either minimize or counter what Vancouver was bringing you. So I'm not worried about his position in the future, but I am telling you that they're not making the playoffs. That is my prediction of this.
All right. So then let's go and discuss the team that is below LAG in the standings, and the one that's got the most wins and the match in hand, the one that's in ninth right now. You've heard of them. They're a team in Seattle. They're called the Sounders. And it was a match last weekend, and I know we'll kind of jump all the way back to last weekend because that was the last time Seattle played, where we had figured Seattle was going to get the Duke in this one. Were you surprised that the margin was what it was against Austin FC?
Yes, I was. I thought that Seattle had a lot to prove in this one. I felt like that midfield, the young midfield with Atencio and Leiva, this game was going to tell you if they could continue to do it, and they did. The margin was surprising to me. I knew that by talking to Brian, I knew that they had studied the way Austin pressured and that they were going to be ready to play out of pressure. I just had no idea that they were going to dice them up like a chopped salad. I mean, I just didn't know that, and they did. They looked like that team back in CCL that in transition and in their own defensive and active defending was going to be so elite. And they looked like that team that it was a couple of passes, almost out of instinct. I thought Morris was working well with Alex. Albert Rusnak was working great. We knew who. Jordan looked confident enough to not force a shot and just kind of give Raul the gimme goal in front of goal. So those sorts of things that begin to work for this team can make him a real headache for teams going in if they make the playoffs, right? And in this one, they showed you that they could do it. So praising that midfield, Raul Ruidiaz looks as dangerous as he's been all season in front of goal. Jordan's working out. The defense looked great. Yemer Gomez Andrade completely dominated the area, interceptions, breaking in on balls, one-on-one defending. So everything just worked out for this team. I was surprised by the scoreline, but not that they won this game. So good for the home team. Everything's working out in their favor after Austin took care of business against Real Salt Lake. So now they have to go to Vancouver and keep this momentum going by beating Vancouver. And that's it. They don't have to play amazing. They do got to get this result.
That's the bottom line when it comes to this time of year. And it's a situation that is also facing Atlanta United right now. They've got some folks that they've got a hopscotch to get their way forward. And last night, as we were looking at life in the East before life in the West happened, Atlanta United, after a 45-minute or so weather delay, got the goal from Thiago Almada, who I think, if you haven't classified him as a ridiculously talented player already, I think that last night, or the last two matches really for Atlanta United, when I think the shot that he got for the third goal against Toronto FC was clocked somewhere in the mid-50-mile-an-hour range, somewhere between 54 and 57. And then he gets the goal with the assist with Andrew Gutman for the 1-0 win against the Purple team in Central Florida, where, trust me, there were a lot of OFYO hashtags after the match was over from Atlanta United fans. Atlanta United got the Duke. They needed to get it. And so right now, much like the situation you're facing in Seattle, 4 back with 4 to play, Atlanta is 2 back with 3 to play. What did you think about Atlanta's efforts against Orlando last night?
I thought they looked good against a very good Orlando side. It's still not perfect, especially defensively. Still a lot of space given. Still a lot of issues coming out of the back. They got lucky on a couple of occasions with, just being negligent with the ball coming out of the back. And luckily for them, Orlando was unable to capitalize. But a lot of good things. Araujo is a fantastic player, but man, if he could put away half of the shots that he creates, I mean, he would go from a very good player to a great player. And he would give Atlanta a lot more goals than they have this season. I thought Coutinho was adequate at goal. Nothing sensational, but solid. Obviously, you want to see more from him, but I thought he was adequate. In all reality, Almada, if you haven't figured out he's a huge talent, then you might just change the sport to tennis or something. But he's just a fantastic player in general. And you saw the way that he built that play, that wall with Goodman, and then the skill and the awareness in the box with a very subtle, very exquisite touch on the ball. He leaves Antonio Carlos like roadkill on a highway behind him, and then he puts it away. So Almada is the it guy. He is the young star of this team, and he's going to continue to be. Now he's part of the Argentine national team for the friendlies coming up. Not saying that he's going to be in Qatar, just saying that it's great that the Argentine national team is keeping him in the loop. So he's just a great, fantastic talent. But all in all, I thought Gonzalo Pineda did what he needed to do in this one to get the win. And hopefully this will cement this group and seal a lot of those creases and cracks that we have seen and we know that are there for Atlanta.
Time for cliffhanger. And it's that time where we look at the weekend that will be. And it starts Saturday afternoon, 3, 6, 9, 11 matches on Saturday, 3 more on Sunday. And as always, for those who are watching this segment on Twitch or who are listening for this segment on the first time, basically, I will just start yelling out juice box numbers. And if there's a matchup that Niko wants to talk about, he says stop. And then Niko gives his input on the particular matchup, and then we'll go back and forth with it. Hudson River starts us off at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. NYC, who is your Campeones Cup champ after beating an Atlas team that, frankly, is not very good. NYC gets to add a trophy, and I wonder off the top of my head if the Campeones Cup banner is going to be the same size as their MLS Cup banner wherever they hang at Yankee Stadium. Is it going to be a matching set? Or are they going to try, because Campeones Cup may be a little better in the in the timeline? Is it more important? Is it less important? Does that determine the size of the banner for Campeones Cup? NYC and Red Bulls. NYC at home, slight favorite at a plus 131. Red Bulls are a plus 200. I find that number kind of shit.
Let's take that one real quick. Yes, congrats to New York City FC. That's what I like to call, a paper cup or aluminum cup.
Yeah.
These one game cups are not my cup of tea, but they are a cup. They should be celebrated. You're right, Atlas is not a very good team, but we did see a lot of good things out of New York City FC. More of Santi getting cohesiveness with Talis Magno, Maxi Rodriguez, all part of that second goal that was fantastic. That back line coming back together from injury, Alex Khaled, Chanot. So it was good to see. I think that might translate well into the final part of the season, and that's why I like this game. We have a lot of expectations for New York City FC because of the talent, the money that's there, and what they had proven earlier this season with Ronnie Dyla. So now, can you figure it out with the new coach again? And can you get out of that slump that you were in just recently? I'm not talking about 2 months ago. I'm talking about you're still in that slump. So can you get out, continue to get out against a very good New York Red Bulls team that they're not exciting, they're not fantastic, but they're efficient and they are hard to play, and they win the numbers matchup everywhere on the field. When they're attacking, when they're defending, they are a team that do not allow you to play your game. Very good in transition. I love the young talent with Edelman and with Tolkien, combined with Captain Morgan just doing his thing in the final third. And you got a guy with a lot of lungs and attacking like Luquinhas, Cáceres. So it's a very balanced team. So the reason why I think this game is big is because that's two good teams, but we're going to see where they really stand on this one going into the playoffs, because both are playoff teams. So I like this game. I'm going to go ahead and take Red Bulls. What's the odds on that?
Basically a plus 200.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically right. Plus 200 for Red Bulls going up against NYC in the composite at a plus 131. Your draw is almost a plus 250. Now, I'm going to stop you with this one. Atlanta United, Philadelphia Union, because the listeners here on this side of the coast, this side of the continent, always like to hear your point of view. Atlanta United, 3:30 Eastern time, a plus 143, a slight home favorite. Philadelphia is a plus 166. Your draw is a plus 270. What do you think about this one?
That's a tough one. That is a difficult one because I've been telling you in every single show that I'm on that Philadelphia are the number one contender for the cup. They're the best team in MLS, balanced, experienced, and now they are a scoring machine. With Ure and
Gazda.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're just such a good team that it's difficult for Atlanta on this one, but that's what Atlanta needs, right? If you're gonna go into the playoffs, go into it by beating the best. And if you can get this game and get 3 points, you're gonna look completely different. I mean, that could be a momentum shifting moment for this team. So I think Philadelphia, quite honestly, is the heavy favorite in this one. I don't see what Atlanta can do, but if there's going to be a chance, it's going to come out of the hands of your best attacking pieces, right? So we talked about Araujo. He has to be more clinical, and maybe his decision making. If you're not, he forces a lot of shots. Maybe take that extra pass. Maybe take that extra touch. Maybe open up Thiago. Maybe once Joseph gets into the rotation, give him a ball. So that's got to be number one key component. But number two, you have to have eyes on that attacking end, whether it's Gazdag, trying to just completely get him out of the game, because he is what makes that Philadelphia attack relevant is Gazdag. If you can neutralize him and completely take him out of circuit with everybody in front of him, then you got a chance. So those are the two things that I'm sure Gonzalo Pineda is going to be trying to do. How can I take out Gazdag out of the game? And how can I get my talented players into prime assistant positions.
And make sure that the man in the middle is going to whistle a persistent infringement and going down rather easily. For a team that is so physical defensively, they go down with the slightest touch offensively. So I'm always looking for, in any match involving Philadelphia, I'm looking for yellows for simulation, and I'm looking for persistent infringement. They go right up. They go right up. They go right up against the window. They go right to the edge of the ledge. They figure out where it is, and then they trade off. When you look at it analytically, it is a well-constructed game plan each and every time. But that has also created situations where now Philadelphia is public enemy number one because of how they act and how they respond on the pitch. Not just, I'm not just talking against Atlanta United, but in the overall, and you see it every single time. If they've got a lead, players start going down in the 55th minute and grabbing ghost injuries, and they're being told to stay down before substitutions. It is basically CONCACAFing everything to the nth degree, and Jim Curtin is finding that edge every single time out and frustrating every single opponent that Philadelphia Union go up against.
You got to be ready for the dark arts. That is 100% sure. You are right. This is a team that with Bedoya and El Brujo and everybody, they like to do that. So whether it's slowing down the game or getting under your skin, Atlanta has a lot of young players that can be a little fiery. That's something that you definitely have to take care of. Gonzalo Pineda, if you're watching, listen to this guy right here. Make sure that you have a good talk with the guys, because that's something that will get triggered. Is how can I get under this guy's skin? How can I get him a yellow early in the game? How can I get him that second yellow or maybe a red? So that is something that an experienced team like this one is going to try to do for you. But once again, if Atlanta can get this game, it can catapult you. Mm-hmm. If you get into the playoffs after you beating a team like Philadelphia, man, the belief is there. And those wins are going to bring that group together completely. Everybody in the locker room is going to get together after a game like this one. So that is definitely a game that I am not going to miss at all. I think Sosa has been very good in midfield. He needs to be even better against this team. He needs to be everywhere. He needs to be physical, and he needs to be poised from his position. So it's a good game. It's a good game.
4-4-2 diamond will also give Atlanta United the chance to operate in the middle of the pitch with a lot of empty space, and you've got to be clinical with your shots as well going up against that defense. Shooter McGavin, our resident New England Revolutions fan, initially referred to the Union as Philly scum, and then he corrected himself and said, excuse me, I stand corrected, boring diving Philly scum. So yeah, Shooter is right out there with pretty much everybody else with MLS. Okay, a couple of other matchups that are kind of Revs in Montreal, Orlando City and Toronto, Chicago, Charlotte, Sporting, Minnesota United. Sporting is actually on the minus side with that at a minus 103, which I find to be a bit of a surprise.
That is surprising.
9:00 Eastern at Q2. Austin and Nashville SC. Austin is a plus 114 at home. The draw is a plus 275. Nashville, just on the north end of plus 200 at a plus 204. What do you think?
Stop on down one for me. That's a big game right there. Austin, once again, don't let the 3-0 score midweek fool you. It was not that simple. It was not that easy. A lot of missed chances from Austin. Still have things to figure out. I'm not sure what kind of changed there, but they've been on a slump, and you could see it in this one. Regardless of the 3-0 score game, this Nashville game will tell you more about where Austin is than anything. And regardless of how good Nashville has been, because of Mukhtar and because a lot of those acquisitions that came from this last window, I still want to see more. And I think that this game will tell you a lot about where both are at. However, I think Gary Smith is finally getting what he needs out of his team, and I think they're going to surprise Austin in this one.
All right. RSL and FC Cincinnati at the Riot at 9:30 Eastern. Then the first one that I want to get in touch with you with about MLS After Dark at BC Place. You've got to have it if you're Seattle. On the road against Vancouver, you are a current road favorite at a plus 142. Vancouver at a plus 172, and you're drawing the composite of plus 254. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fair. This is a Vancouver team that hasn't won a lot of games in their last 5. A lot of draws, a lot of losses. They are a team that probably feels better playing in transition. And I think Seattle, although they have a hard time breaking down teams in deep blocks, where they are at this moment, they probably want to have a lot of that possession and counter your counter. There's going to be moments where if you miss the ball, and I just saw this in the last Austin game, I think Seattle, their reactiveness defensively has changed. And those 2 young guys at holding mid give you a lot of range. So I think that Seattle has everything to win this game. The momentum, the quality, and the cohesiveness as a group to get it forward. I told you last week that believe in your coach and believe in your system and what you've done in the past is huge. And this locker room doesn't just believe that they're going to get into it. Some of them feel like they know it. So in this game, if you're going to see that, I feel like Seattle's going to try to take over BC Place right from minute 1. And that's how they're going to play the game. So I see Seattle winning this game. Raul Ruiz is going to be important. He got called up by the Peruvian national team. I think that always gets him riled up, and he's not going to let many chances get away from him in this one.
MLS After Dark after that one. LAG hosting Colorado, San Jose, and Dallas. LAG is a big favorite, basically a minus 150. San Jose and Dallas are pretty much within the margin of error, plus 155, somewhere in there on both sides. Sunday, Crew hosting Portland, DC hosting Inter Miami, and LAFC at a minus 385.
Ooh,
Bank hosting Houston.
I like that one. Crew Portland, that's a really good one. Portland is in playoff position right now. They've been able to really get a lot about Dairon Asprilla, someone who I talked in this show a lot about because he doesn't get a lot of credit, but he's been fantastic, just doing everything for Gio. And at the same time, I feel like they still need to fix a couple of things in the back. And who's going to put that into testing? Cucho. Yes. Cucho seems to just have a nation for goal. He had a couple of bad spells or, he wasn't quite scoring a couple of games, but he got back in the scoreboard just recently. We know what Columbus can do. And every team, as Caleb Porter would tell you, that plays Columbus is the best team in MLS. So now Portland is going to be able to hold that and see if Caleb says that they're the best team in MLS. There's that Caleb and Timbers history. So that's always fun for me. Everything that Caleb did and means to Timbers now taking on his team. It'll be an interesting matchup. I'm going to go ahead and say that Columbus is going to take this one, not by much, but I think it's going to be a last 10 to 5 minute goal for Columbus, and they'll take this one.
At a plus 311, I know that's a very tempting juice box number for those that want to stare at Portland. Before we go, one of our listeners / watchers, I believe Uncle is based in another Cascadia city that is south of you. And when you mentioned that you were on your 4th cup of coffee, Uncle No Pocket says that Nico needs some Stumptown coffee.
Stumptown coffee?
Okay, yeah. And I actually had to research it out. In Stumptown, let's see, Stumptown Coffee Roasters is who they are. They've got Cold Brew Blend, Costa Rica Sumava de Lourdes. They are all over the place. And so Uncle No Pockets in the effort of Cascadia friendship is extending his coffee hand to you and suggesting Stumptown coffee as a possibility for you as you continue to have your coffee throughout the day.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to go ahead and check that out. And I make a promise to do my best effort to get some and tell you what I think about it.
All right. So let me see if I can find where they can get now. There's locations. And of course, I'm sitting here and I'm just screaming through a map. They have cafes in that southern Cascadia city that that we are discussing, but I want to say that they have places in Seattle, or at least I know that they sell the product in Seattle. So I'm trying to at Stumptown and downtown. See, and this is what happens when you're trying to sit here and fill
That's
time.
okay. How about I talk about that Inter Miami DC game? Not because I'm interested about DC United, but Inter Miami, man, they have turned it on and they believe. And Pozuelo changed the life of both Miami and Pipita Higuain. He's found goal. He's revived his MLS career, and he's looked good, man. I mean, both of those goals on Higuain are great movement and great finds by Pozuelo. He has a Pipita GPS turned on at all times, and it's great. It's great to see it for Miami. They've done a lot of improvements that front office has decided this season that they made a lot of mistakes. They have fixed those mistakes, and now they're a playoff team. I mean, you gotta say that they're a playoff team. There's someone that can definitely get in, and careful with them, because regardless of the lack of talent in the center back position, they really know how to buy into what Neville's is doing right now, and they believe that group is very together. So it'll be interesting, how Campana can maybe find his goals again, because I feel like he lost a little bit of that. But that's a pretty complete squad, mainly from midfield up. But that's a good squad.
2 points out with 4 matches to go, and Uncle is saying that you can pick it up at either Fred Meyer or Kroger. So whenever you are passing by Fred Meyer, or there you go, Stumptown Coffee. All right, time for the blatant plug. What's going on at Pulso Sports and with El Rolo and W these days?
I'm working on that. All you need to know is that is Hispanic Heritage Day month, coming up. So I am in the middle of securing quite a number of interviews with some of the best Latin players that I can get my hands on. It will be league wide. I'm hoping that our friends in Atlanta can help me out with at least one, maybe talk to Gonzo. But I will be doing quite a few of those Latin, full Spanish, maybe a little mix, if anything, but reaching out to all the Latinos in the league because of what's coming up in this Hispanic Heritage Month.
Niko Moreno on his 4th cup of coffee, because it is almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon and school is almost letting out. So we all know what happens there is that traffic happens in and around all of the schools during this time of day. As always, my friend, great to catch up with you and get your insights with everything going on, not just on your coast, not just on this coast, but all around the world of soccer and Major League Soccer. Thanks for hanging out with us for another Thursday, my friend. We will catch up with you next week.
Have a good one, my friend.
All right, so since that's the end of the show, that means that I get to do this. And let's see if I can actually hit the right button for a change.